Your daughter comes home from her friend's house and she won't stop talking about the banana bread, not yours, her friend's mother's. You've made banana bread longer than that friend has been alive. You've got a recipe card so soft at the folds it's practically felt. And still, somehow, the loaf on someone else's counter wins. Or maybe it's not your daughter, maybe it's you, standing in a bakery case, staring at a slice of banana bread wrapped in wax paper, price tag reading $6, and thinking, I make this at home. Why does this taste like something? Why does mine taste like nothing at all? Here's the thing nobody tells you, dear. Banana bread isn't one recipe, it's 3. There's the amateur version, the one most of us grew up making, the one that's fine, just fine. There's the home cook version, a little better, a little more careful, and then there's the expert version, the one your daughter's friend's mother is apparently making, whether she knows it or not. Most recipes online treat banana bread like an afterthought, like it's the thing you throw together when the bananas on the counter have gone soft and you don't want to waste them. Nobody sits you down and tells you the difference between a loaf that's fine and a loaf that makes a grown man ask for the recipe. That's not your fault. Nobody ever told you. That's all. I'm Rosalie Jean. I've been baking in my own kitchen for over 50 years now, and banana bread was one of the very first things my mother ever put in my hands. Back then, we didn't call it a quick bread, we just called it Tuesday. But I promise you, in the decades since, I have made every mistake there is to make with a banana, and I have learned, slowly, the handful of things that separate the loaf everybody forgets by dessert from the loaf everybody's still talking about the next morning. By the end of this, you'll know exactly what separates amateur banana bread from home-cooked banana bread from expert banana bread. And I'll tell you, there's one little trick near the end, the kind of thing professional bakeries do and never bother explaining, that changes the whole texture of the crumb. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. You'll want to stay for that one. Now let me tell you why most banana bread falls short in the first place. Because once you understand this one thing, everything else in this video is going to make a lot more sense. Banana bread is not a yeast bread. There's no rising, no waiting around for hours, no punching down dough. It's what bakers call a quick bread, and it gets its lift from baking soda, a chemical reaction, not a living one. That reaction happens the moment your wet ingredients meet your dry ingredients. And here's the part that trips almost everybody up. The moment flour meets liquid, gluten starts to form. Gluten is just the protein in flour that gives structure to bread. In a yeast loaf, you want plenty of it. In banana bread, you want just a little, because too much gluten means a tough, rubbery, chewy loaf instead of a tender one. So here's the one-line truth I want you to carry out of this video, the kind of thing you could repeat to a friend at her own kitchen counter. The more you stir banana bread, the tougher it gets. Every extra stroke of that spoon builds gluten you don't want. That's the whole secret sitting underneath everything else I'm about to show you. Let's walk through the 3 levels: amateur, home cook, expert, and I'll fold in that one professional secret along the way. The first thing, and this is where amateur banana bread goes wrong before the mixing bowl even comes out. It's the bananas themselves. Most people make banana bread with bananas that are yellow, maybe a few brown flecks if they're being generous. And I understand the instinct. Nobody wants to look at a black spotted banana and think, yes, that's the one I want to eat. It looks like it's gone bad. But dear, for banana bread, that's exactly the banana you want. My mother used to keep a brown paper bag on top of the icebox, and any banana that so much as looked at her the wrong way went straight into that bag. She'd fold the top down twice and leave it there for 2 or 3 days. I thought she was just hiding the ugly bananas from company. It wasn't until years later, once I was baking on my own, that I understood what she was doing. She was ripening them on purpose. A banana that's mostly yellow is still holding most of its starch as starch. It hasn't converted to sugar yet. When you bake with a banana like that, you get a loaf that tastes mild, a little flat, more like bread with banana flavoring than banana bread. But a banana that's gone almost entirely black, soft enough that it's collapsing in your hand, has converted nearly all of that starch into natural sugar. That's where the real banana flavor lives. That's the difference between a loaf that tastes like a banana walked past it and a loaf that tastes like banana, fully and honestly. Here's a number for you. 3 very ripe, spotted to black bananas, mashed, is going to give you close to 1.5 cups of banana. That's your target for most standard loaf recipes. Not 2 bananas that are mostly yellow with a little spot on them. 3 dark, soft, almost embarrassing looking bananas. And if your bananas aren't ripe enough and you don't have 2 or 3 days to wait, here's a shortcut, though I'll be honest with you, it's not quite the same. You can bake unpeeled bananas on a tray at 300 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 to 20 minutes, until the skins go fully black and they feel soft all the way through. It gets you most of the way there. It won't be quite as deep in flavor as bananas that ripen slowly on their own, but it'll save your afternoon if company's coming and your bananas are still yellow on the counter. The second thing is the mixing itself, and this is where home-cooked banana bread earns its name, because most people who've been baking for a while have already figured out the bananas. It's the stirring that gets them. Remember what I told you a moment ago? Every extra stroke of the spoon builds gluten you don't want. So here is where most people go wrong, even good home bakers, even people who've made this 100 times. They mix their batter the way they'd mix a cake. Cream the butter and sugar, add the eggs, add the mashed banana, then dump in the flour and keep stirring, scraping the bowl, making sure every last streak of flour disappears, because that's what a tidy batter is supposed to look like. That's the mistake. Once your dry ingredients hit your wet ingredients, you want to fold, not stir, and you want to stop the moment you stop seeing dry flour, not 30 seconds after, not just to be sure, the moment. Your batter should actually look a little rough when you're done. A few small streaks of flour are fine. A slightly lumpy top is fine. If your batter looks smooth and glossy and perfectly uniform, like a pancake batter, dear, you've already overmixed it, and there is no fixing that once it's happened. That loaf is going into the oven a little tougher than it needed to be, no matter what you do to it after. I'll tell you, I ruined more loaves this way in my first 10 years of baking than any other single mistake. I used to think a smooth batter meant a job well done. It took my own daughter, actually, watching me over my shoulder one Saturday, saying, "Mama, why do you stir it so long?" before I even thought to question it. Sometimes the people watching you know more than they realize. The third thing, and this is where we step from home cook into expert territory. This is the trick I promised you at the start. Brown your butter first. Most recipes call for melted butter or softened butter creamed with sugar. Both of those are fine. Neither of those is what separates a bakery quality loaf from a homemade one. What separates them is browning the butter before it ever goes near the batter. Here's how you do it. Put your butter in a light-colored pan, not a dark one, because you need to see the color change happening. Melt it over medium heat and keep it moving with a whisk or a spoon. It will foam up first. Let it foam. Underneath that foam, the milk solids in the butter are toasting, and after about 5 to 7 minutes, you'll start to see small brown flecks forming at the bottom of the pan, and you'll smell something like toasted hazelnuts. That's your signal. Pull it off the heat right there. If you wait too long, it goes from browned to burnt in about 30 seconds flat, so don't walk away from the stove during this step. Let that browned butter cool for about 10 minutes before you use it, so it doesn't scramble your eggs when you mix it in. What you get in return for that little bit of patience is a loaf with a deep, almost caramelized, nutty backbone underneath the banana flavor. It's the flavor most people can't quite name when they taste a truly good banana bread. They just know it tastes richer. Now you'll know why. While we're in expert territory, here's a second small trick that costs you nothing extra. Add 1 egg yolk beyond what the recipe calls for. Just the yolk, not the whole egg. That extra yolk adds fat and richness without adding extra liquid the way a whole egg would, and it gives you a more tender, almost velvety crumb. My granddaughter, who is 13 and very particular about her baked goods, once told me my banana bread tastes like a bakery, not like a house. I didn't tell her about the extra yolk for a good 6 months. I let her think it was magic for a while. The fourth thing is about moisture, and this is where I want to be honest with you, because not every trick is free. A tablespoon or 2 of sour cream, or plain yogurt if that's what you have, folded in gently with the wet ingredients, will give you a loaf that stays moist for days instead of drying out by the second morning. The acidity in sour cream also reacts with the baking soda to give you a slightly better rise and a more tender crumb overall. Here's the honest part. If you're baking this same day and slicing into it warm, you may not notice much difference at all between a loaf with sour cream and one without. Where this trick really pays off is the next day and the day after that, when a loaf without it has already started to go a little dry at the edges and a loaf with it is still soft all the way through. So if you're baking to eat today and today only, don't worry yourself over this step. But if you're baking ahead for a gathering, for gifts, for a freezer stash, this is worth the extra tablespoon. And here's a companion trick that costs you nothing but patience, and it's the kind of thing that separates a good loaf from a genuinely memorable one. Once your loaf has cooled completely, wrap it tightly in foil or plastic and let it sit on the counter overnight before you cut into it. I know how hard that is. The smell alone will test you. But a banana bread that rests overnight lets its flavors settle and marry, the way a good soup tastes better the next day. Cut into it too early, while it's still warm, and you'll lose some of that. This is the one caveat I'll give you honestly. If you need banana bread today, this step isn't for you, and that's all right. But if you can wait, the loaf rewards you for it. The fifth and final thing is a small finishing touch, and it's the one most home bakers skip entirely because it feels unnecessary. Before your loaf goes into the oven, take about a 1/4 cup of your mashed banana and hold it back, folding it in as small chunks rather than mashing it completely smooth. And right before baking, split 1 whole banana lengthwise and lay the 2 halves cut side up on top of the batter, pressing them in just slightly. What this does is give you little pockets of true banana texture throughout the loaf, instead of banana flavor that's fully dissolved and invisible, and it gives you that beautiful caramelized banana top that bakeries slice for their display case, the one that makes a loaf look like it was made with care rather than convenience. A small sprinkle of flaky salt on top, right before baking, does something similar for flavor. Not enough to taste salty, just enough to make the sweetness taste more like itself. That's a trick from your bakery case, whether they've ever told you or not. Now let's talk about what all of this actually gets you, because a nicer loaf isn't worth much if it doesn't mean something. That bakery slice I mentioned at the start, the one behind glass for $6, a whole homemade loaf, once you count your flour, your butter, your eggs, your bananas, comes to somewhere around $2.50, and that's a whole loaf, not a single slice. But here's the number that matters more than money. Once you've made these 5 changes, ripe bananas, minimal stirring, browned butter, a touch of sour cream, that overnight rest, you're not making bakery-adjacent banana bread anymore. You're making the kind of loaf that makes your own child stop bringing up her friend's mother's version. That's worth more to me than the $2.50 ever was, and I suspect it will be for you too. Here's your homework this week, dear, and I want you to do it exactly this way, not a shortcut version of it. Buy your bananas 5 days before you plan to bake. Let them sit right out on the counter until they've gone properly black, soft enough that you're a little embarrassed by them. Then make 1 loaf, browned butter and all, and let it rest overnight before you cut it. And when you do, come tell me in the comments what your own family always put in their banana bread. Walnuts, pecans, chocolate chips, nothing at all. I want to know what banana bread looked like in your house growing up. I read every single one of these, every comment, every story, so don't be shy about telling me. Next time, I'm going to show you the one substitution that turns an ordinary banana bread into something that tastes like it came from a proper patisserie, and it's not an ingredient you'd expect at all. You'll want to be here for that one. Until then, keep your bananas past the point of pretty, keep your spoon still a little longer than you're used to, and always give your loaf the night it's asking for before you cut it.